I'm Scott Bean. I teach trombone here at Lamont School of Music. This is my second, going into my third year. And a couple of things before we start. How many people do we have playing? We have 5 people playing? 2, 3, 4. There's 5. Great, great. And how long does this go to? I hate to ask you guys.
11:20, 11:30.
Okay, so roughly 15 minutes per person. Sure. Okay. Just a couple of things before we start. Great job with the audition yesterday, the mock auditions. A lot of them were very good. But there are a lot of similarities in all of them. And a lot of my students playing as well. One of them is just consistency. And one of my big things is about making sure that, and many of you have heard this before with me, making sure that everything that you play is right the first time. A lot of times when we're practicing, and my big thing is like at Arben's exercise, like number 11, which is the E flat, right? That one, right? What we do, everyone looks at the exercise and, oh man, that's really easy. That's a group I can do that, no problem. I've not run into one person, student of mine, that can actually play it perfectly the first time through. And yet it's only half notes and quarter notes, right? With great articulation, good intent, beautiful music, great sound, clean ending of notes, just no one is able to do it the first time. They can almost always do it the second, maybe the third time. How many times do we have to perform a piece or an audition, as you guys saw? We have one time to perform it, that first time that we have to. But if we always are practicing playing well our second or third time that we call practice, then we're practicing to play everything we play in our entire life well the second or third time. You never, ever, ever get the opportunity to play things a second or third time. If you have to play it the second time, because the first time's not good enough, guess what? You'll never get to that second time because people won't ask you to play it again. It's just the reality of it. But it also gives you a certain level of consistency. I had a little warm up in the elevator coming down. That was like, I played a couple notes in the elevator, that's how I warm up today. And I know that when I pick up my trombone, I can probably play a pretty solid E flat. Probably a pretty solid E flat the first time through. It's not a question, because I practice consistency in my practice. Does that make sense? Again, so don't practice playing things well the second or third time. Practice playing well the first time. And I think a lot of your problems would be solved. All right, let's get to hearing some music, and then I will maybe start talking in a second. Any questions about that before we start? All right, who wants to play? Who's playing first? You? You, why don't you go on, Bill?
Doing Arben 11, so.
All right, good, good. So Bill came up to me and said, what should I play? I'm having these particular problems in my playing. And I said, basics are probably better to work on than the really complicated abstract music. That being said, I play a lot of complicated abstract music, some really crazy avant-garde music. But what I work on in my practice routine is extremely basic routines. Just getting things done, understanding the basics. And then from there, I can move on to doing whatever I want. So, number 11, this is Bill Combs. I guess, does everyone know Bill? Mind introduce yourself? Say where you're from.
I'm from Lubbock, Texas. I did my undergrad at Texas Tech, master's degree here at University of Denver right before he got here. I'm doing my DMA at CU Boulder right now, and I'm performing in the Denver Philharmonic and the Denver Municipal Band, which we will see tomorrow night, which will be a fun show.
These are my problems, these are what I think I need to fix, what should I work on? and I said this. And you can hear it. It was really pretty good. A lot of great things. I like your sound. A lot of your articulations were pretty solid. Intonation was pretty on. Time was a little wonky occasionally, right?
Okay.
And you have to make sure that you're feeling a steady pulse. So I practice these with the metronome. Always practice with the metronome. I practice these with drones when I'm playing them. So I make up my own drone CD with this, and the chord progression, so I get the intonation just the way I want it to be. But even musically speaking, you're concentrating on all of the other things, so you take some really wacky breaths occasionally, right? In some oddball places. And they're really audible breaths. It doesn't matter where you take a breath, it just matters that no one can hear them, or that it doesn't interfere with the music, right? So I was always at the school, I had teachers that always said, well, no, you always have to take a breath where the phrase leads and everything else, and that totally makes sense. But at the end of the day, we play a pretty big instrument that requires lots of air. It's not always an option. So then I started listening to really great trombone players on CD. I'm like, oh my, why are they taking a breath there? My teachers always told me not to take a breath there. Well, they can do it because they are hot, they're masking their breathing. They're not allowing the listener to they're not allowing the breath to get in the way of the phrases. And so that's kind of what you need to practice as well. So I practice that a lot with this. Take weird breaths sometimes to make sure it doesn't interfere. We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But let's start off at the beginning again. And can you just use an air articulation? No tongue whatsoever. Keep your tongue out of the way. Can you play your first note again? Good. So there's a little delay in getting it to start. Your air up front. Get your tongue out of the way. Nice one. Usually I can get my air articulations to sound similar to my tongue articulations. I don't call them attacks. I call them articulations. It's just a little verbal issue. Attacks indicate that you're trying to kill something, trying to hurt something, right? And what I heard last night was, as beautiful as that sounds, which it does sound pretty gorgeous, it's still, it's a little too harsh. A lot of tongue, not there. And so you need to release, my big thing is you need to release the air with your tongue. So I think about my tongue up here. I think Scott probably think the other Scott thinks similarly as well. Ta, so you're releasing you need to be concentrating on the t part. Does that make sense? Which concentrates on the air, which concentrates on what the whole thing is about. Anyway, so just get an E flat with just air. Just do E flat. Good. Now I want you to release that air. Good. Second. Good. Both of them sound pretty good, but your air stream is not steady. It kind of fluctuates in your tongue. So keep your air steady. Good. That sounds great. How does that sound to you guys? It's a lot more defined. Okay. Articulation is not about, well, what the note, define it. So you might have heard my birthday cake analogy. Okay. I know Chris probably has. I define a note as the kind of like a cake. And all the ingredients of a cake are put into a bowl, and you mix them up. And then you have a cake. Well, that's the air of the note. That's the actual note. But then you put frosting on it, right? And maybe your little Winnie the Pooh with the balloons on it, which I know you all like for birthdays, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, what does all that do? The numbers, it defines what the cake is about, right? So it's a birthday cake, it's a Valentine's Day cake, it's a Happy Groundhog's Day cake, it's I love my hamster's mating cake, whatever it's going to be. But that's what defines it. And articulation is the same thing. The cake is actually the air, the note, the thing that's important. With just a pile of frosting and Winnie the Pooh with balloons, you just have a pile of frosting and Winnie the Pooh with balloons. It defines nothing except for maybe you're a little nutty and you like lots of frosting. But with the cake, it defines that this is the birthday cake, that's the actual main part of what you're doing, and then the definition of what kind of cake. So the note's the same thing. With air up front, that's the note. That's what you have to do. Articulation is just definition, and that's all it is. Okay. But a lot of times we start, again, we define trombone playing as an articulation, or every note as an articulation. And that's just a pile of articulations. That's just a pile of frosting, right? We don't want that. So, a little more cake. Now start from the beginning. Fa. on just air articulations, please. Please. Good. One more air, please. Good again. There you go. Now, beginning again, please. Low B flat, please. Good. More air. Good. Bigger airstream. Good again. Hold that one, please. Good. Now articulate that. Good again. Less time, more air. There you go. Again, more air. Good. Beginning again. Articulate. Good. Up to there. Sounds great. Really nice. Every articulation is exactly the same. And I was never a big fan of articulations, everything being the same. In fact, I play a lot of early music, so articulations are defined much differently than what romantic articulations today are defined as. Orchestral articulations today, everything has to be pretty much the same all the time, consistency. Renaissance and Baroque articulations are varied. A lot more string articulations, a lot of them, the Italian music that we play, based on how we speak in Italian. So it's totally different. So I'm not a big believer in everything in music has to be the same. If I'm playing music at Gabriele, my articulation is going to be different. If you're taking an orchestra audition, every note has to be the same. Every note has to be a clone of perfection of the first note. Every note. If you can start from that aspect, then you can move out. If you can't start from that aspect, then you're hopeless. Not hopeless. I mean, you have great lives and everything else. But if you can start with the aspect that every note can be cloned, every note can be the same, and perfect consistency in all registers. That's an amazing start. You can start coloring everything as you go along. So, play your D, please. That's where we stop.
Tongue or breath.
Air. Good. So, that's where the problem is with this D. It stumbled, right? It wasn't perfect, it wasn't clean, and it was an error. So. I'm really engaging my core muscles, if I have any core muscles. I'm engaging them and into getting the note out with air. Good. Part of it was an intonation issue as well.
Yeah.
So your slide was a little too high, you're trying to lift it down, and do a whole bunch of things at the same time. Keep your slide in the right position. Perfect. Now we're going to set another tone. Good. And air. Yeah, that's a whole lot better than it was at the beginning. Beginning up to at least there, E will be perfect. Things start to fall apart. Now, that's not falling apart on many levels. But, so if you're playing a solo, if you're playing, I don't know, if you're playing something, that's acceptable a lot of times. I'm not for acceptable, I'm for great, or not at all. That's the way it is. If you want to win an audition, if you want to play well, if you want to be a great musician, or if you just want to have fun, things have to be at the highest level. And if we can't play at the highest level of number 11 Arbenz, then how are we supposed to play Bolero, or Requiem, or God help us also Schrock, right? And that's a tough excerpt. There's some tough parts, or Hungarian March. It kind of starts with performing number 11 of Arbenz, or whatever the simplest exercise that you want to start with, B flat major scale. I just happen to use Arbenz because it's there. It has a lot of little teachable moments in it. They're relatively short. This is only, what, 12 bars long or 16 bars long? And we all have difficulty performing a 16-bar exercise that we could probably play when we were in 6th grade perfectly and cleanly every time. How are we to expect ourselves to play the bourgeois concerto with little flaw, right? I mean, we're having fun, and I don't want you not to work on that stuff. That's not at all what I'm saying. But a good amount of our practice has to be spent at perfecting what we do, not just playing. Make sense? Making any sense? That's not crazy yet? Yeah. Good. Good. I want to. B flat. Just low B flat. There. the syllable from low B flat, and a lot of teachers don't think about this, or don't say this. In fact, in elementary school, we're taught to articulate never below our top of our, the bottom of our top teeth, right? But I know Bud Herseth did this, Joe Lessie taught me this, that you articulate anything from low B flat and lower, toe, there we go, like you're spitting out a watermelon seed, right? So instead of up there, so, and the reason is because your tongue is dropped already, and it's a lower note. So especially for low F, hollow notes and everything else, I articulate much lower in my mouth than I would maybe if I articulated high B flat. May work for some people, may work for everyone, I'm not sure. Good. So, air front. That's just air. And then tongue. And you're going to think about the ah part method. Good. Make a consistent sound beginning there. Good. Now let's play number 11 together. What are you going to do from the 9?
Your notes are longer than mine.
Yeah. They're a half note is a half note, right? A half note is a half note. A quarter note is a quarter note. Why do we play dum, 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 dum? And then the articulation, I guess, is marked there. It's much more difficult to play everything full value all the time than it is to play. So I want everything full value orchestral stuff, right? That's how we play orchestral. One more time. One thing I noticed though, and I'm always picky, I'm just super picky, and I apologize for this, but you get lazy, like lazy with lengthened notes. You kind of, a phrase kind of drops off, and you're like, nah, in your mind you think that's good enough, or whatever. It's not good enough. It has to be consistently driving forward, and you never give up on a phrase. And if you're not exhausted by air-wise and mentally by playing number 11 beginning to end, then you're not going to practice. Okay. This should not be exhausted, but you should put a ton of air into it, whether you're playing loud or soft. And you should also be mentally so focused on this that you are, you're just, that's all you think about. It's the absolute perfection of everything you're doing. Again, I'm not about absolute perfection about everything, but if you can't be absolutely perfect in number 11 of Arvins, then you can't be perfect in anything else that you're trying to play. Does that make any sense? Yeah. Good. I know it's I get a little wacky with all of this, but it's so important that we define how we practice and making sure that we're practicing these properly. So what I do before we end this, like 11, I define the Arvins book into a number of sections, and 11 through 15 are all the same exercise. So if I'm going to practice these, then I would say, for today, I'm going to practice 2 Arvins exercises, 11 and 12, out of the section. Tomorrow, I may practice 15 and 13. The next day, I might practice 14 and 11. I'm not practicing the piece of music that's in front of me. I'm practicing the technique of what I need to learn, and that's a difference. Whenever I'm practicing music, I'm not practicing the notes of what I see on the page. I'm always defining what I need to physically do to make it sound great. And if you read through number 11 every day, like 5 times a day, again, you're giving yourself an out of saying, well, I'll get it next time. There is no next time. You will never get it the next time. You get it now, or you don't get it at all. Does that make sense? Yeah. And again, it's a little harsh, but so are auditions, as you guys saw yesterday, right? So great job. Thank you very much for putting yourself on the spot. who's next? Come on. And it takes a lot of guts to do an artist exercise up in front of a bunch of trombone players. It doesn't seem like it should, but it does, because it really puts you on the spot. And everyone can say, we all get a little snotty, I know, and say, oh, well, he only played 11 and I played the bourgeois concerto or whatever. Well, no, I'd rather hear someone play a perfect number 11 with great musical intent than a really bad bourgeois. So that's me, and I think everyone would agree with that. All right. Oh, bourgeois, great. No.
I'm Pat Perry. I go to Texas Tech University in Lubbock. I'm going to play the Sarabon from Bach's Fifth Cello Suite after I stop my instrument from falling apart.
Does anyone have any questions while he's fixing his instrument? Are you, is it good?
I'm good.
All right, then never mind. Yes.
Just talking about like your tonguing when you go lower, are you talking about like you made an analogy for like a watermelon seed? Are you talking about like through the lips you tongue?
Not quite through the lips, but certainly not at the top of your teeth.
Okay.
It's not like like a lot of the older books say articulate with T or ta.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work for lower register. So what Joe always said to me was, so it is almost through the teeth, but almost through the lips. It's kind of below your bottom, your top teeth. Makes
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
And much lower than what normal people are taught how to articulate.
Right.
I find that when I articulate like that in the lower register, especially low absence things, we just pop out a lot more. Effortless. Speaking, there are a couple notes here, miss here or there, whatever, you just air issues more than anything, or maybe chop issues, it's not vibrating. But aside from all that, technically speaking, I think it had a lot of merit. Problem with this excerpt, and this is an excerpt, if you don't know, that is asked on, I guess, every bass trombone audition. I can imagine a bass trombone audition that would not have this. The reason why they ask for it is they want to hear, it's tough, and actually a lot of second trombone auditions nowadays have this on it as well, which is tough on the tenor trombone. But it's possible. Why did they ask for this?
It asks for a pretty large extent of range that you find in bass trombone, especially the C to the E flat. To see if you have a good tone all the way through, and more importantly, it's just musicality. And you make it, because Bach didn't really write everything; he just wrote a bunch of notes. You have to make it sound into something.
Yeah. So yes, I mean the range is really important. The consistency of range throughout is really important. The airstream is extremely important because it takes a ton of air to get through, and when you get that breath, we're going to do this and whatever. And even on cello, there are hundreds of interpretations of this. Some of them are really great, some of them are not. And so interpreting this is really difficult because I hate playing the cello suites for anyone except for myself, because everyone's judging. Everyone is judging. String players walk in, oh, I can't believe he's playing that. And you get that from a violinist, well, technically you shouldn't be playing it either, but whatever. So people are always like, I can't believe he's playing that. We're just playing music. But that being said, you have to play music all the time. And it sounds like you're playing a bass trombone. And it's a nice bass trombone. And you look like a very good bass trombone player. And you sound like a good bass trombone player, but this is not about bass trombone. Bach surpasses the instrument, almost always, right? And you will never win with interpretation of someone else. All you can say is it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be great music, or it's not, right? There's always going to be argument. But the one argument they can't say is that it sounded beautiful or it didn't sound beautiful. The one sin in music is not making a decision. Does that make sense? So you can interpret however you want, but the way you interpret it is by not interpreting it.
Okay.
Does it make any sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot
And
of
that's the biggest sin, is by saying, I'm going to play middle of the road. No, that doesn't cut it, except for maybe first round audition stuff where we're just going to play easy and good and clean and consistent, but still you have to play musically. But this, play it again, and I want you to, we're going to try a different couple of extremes. I want you to over-romanticize it. You never do this. Overly romantic vibrato if you want. You can use slide vibrato. Tommy Dorsey on bass trombone playing. Good. Did you, yes or no, was there a gigantic difference or not from the first one? There was?
Yes.
I wasn't gigantic enough.
Okay.
Move the time, I don't care about time. Your
Okay.
time is good, your time is consistent, your notes are consistent, right? You don't need that.
Okay.
You're beyond that now, right?
Okay.
Overly dramatic, overly romantic. Rubato, as much rubato as you want.
Okay.
Good, now, how about this? Good. Love sound really great. Now, never say play like that. Okay. But your default, when I stop snapping or singing, whatever, is just to play.
Yeah.
Potty is how I consider it, right?
Okay.
I'm not saying my interpretation of moving ahead and slowing down, moving ahead and slowing down is what you should do, but that intent has to be there. You have to aim for a specific place. You have to have direction. And one thing, when you take it that slow, it takes a lot of energy to have direction into it. At the beginning again, think about the energy. And it keeps on building, right? This is a very long phrase that builds up and then comes back down at the very end, right?
Yeah.
So you aiming really for here, but I think it's really to here, then it kind of drops down. So it's a little relax. Yeah. Have you listened to any recordings of this, of real musicians?
Yeah, Joey Mom, Doug gave us a good one. Jim Markey has a good one. Just try to find the ones.
Good. I would suggest, and they're great players, I would suggest only listening to as many cellos as you possibly can.
Okay.
And this is their bread and butter. This is what they do. This is all they know this that three things. And they will get as many interpretations as anyone else, but it's not about the trombone for them. It's not about living in audition. It's about this is Bach, what does Bach have to say? And bass trombone players tend to say, this is a great audition piece, what does my audition have to say? Okay, or what's my bass drum? I'm not saying that they're not good.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they're different than what the cellists are. You're in business to make music, not business to play trombone. Right?
Yes.
Try it again. Play music. Pretend you're a cellist. Good summer singing. That was night and day different. The first note, I knew that the entire thing has changed. There was no articulation. It was just a note. It was just, it was the beginning part of a beautiful phrase. Did you feel a difference?
I did, yeah.
Did you guys hear a difference in that? That's the way you need to play all the time. That's the intent. You have the intent of being a great musician, not the intent of being a great bass trombone player. That being said, we worked number 11 at the beginning, and an intent of being a great trombone player, not being a great musician necessarily. They both go hand in hand, though, right? And a lot of technical stuff with this is worked out. And I think your technical issues are musically based right now on this particular piece.
Okay.
You're not making musical decisions, and then therefore your brain goes to default, which is, I have to get the right notes. When you start thinking about notes, getting the right notes, and everything like that, then your brain starts circling, and saying, oh, what do I do now? From the musical aspect to start, especially with this, you don't have any room to think about making mistakes, because it's not mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's just how you get out of those mistakes, right? I think all music is improvisation as well. I came from a jazz background. I think all music is improvisation, and I think I'm relatively warranted in saying that composition is written improvisation, right? They have a chance to alter it as they go along, but it's still written improvisation. I treat every piece, every solo piece that I do as improvisation. I like to memorize most of my music because of that, because it feels like improvisation to me, but also the audience understands it as improvisation. Does that make sense? And you know, audiences, they don't know how much time and effort it goes to playing this. They just want to hear beautiful music. And if they can think that you're thinking about spontaneously, it adds to that. It also adds to our value as well. We're making things up as we go along. Classical music feels like it's dead. And I know a lot of jazz players are like, oh, I don't want to perfect every note. I don't want to play every note perfectly all the time. That's what a lot of my jazz, I don't want to play one beautiful note. That's what a lot of my jazz friends say. And every time I play a piece, the interpretation is different. Every time I play a row shoe, the interpretation is different because I allow it to be different. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes my solos for jazz are good, sometimes they're bad. It's life, we get over it. But the intent of playing music, classical music, if you don't take it from an improvisation standpoint, the music dies. And that's part of the problem with what our industry is right now, is our music is dying because we're playing exactly what's on the page. That's not music, right? In Korean, and I hope I get this right, there are 3 types of music. Akbo, umak, and longju, I believe is what it is. One is music that you read. Anyone Korean here? Okay, anyone speak Korean? Okay, good. Then I'm right. Music that you read is one type of music. So on the page, this is, say, umak, and don't quote me on this. Another music is music that you hear, longju, and bless you. And another one is music that you play, umak. And so we have one word in English, which is music, which defines our entire life of music. It's a lot in one word. Well, I want you to play more of the music that's in the air, and less of the music on the page.
Yes.
And you did that class, because you were in touch with what you wanted to do musically, not in touch with what you wanted to do basically. I play a lot of shows, as you heard, in Broadway, and a lot of musicals and things like that. I asked my wife one time, who's also a musician, like, how does the trombone sound in that? And she's like, Scott, if I can hear the trombone, then you're doing something wrong. And I got me thinking, yeah, the entire audience is probably not here to actually hear the trombone while I'm playing the Phantom of the Opera. It's just not happening, right? They're not here for me. I'm part of the experience, but they're not here for me, right? And yes, as trombone players, we want to go to New York Phil, we want to go to Chicago, we want to go to these places and hear these great trombone sections. But for the average listener, the actual people paying to go to concerts, not seeking it like I did when I was a kid, they are going for the experience of the entire orchestra. They may not even know there's a trombone section. You saw that Dave Finlayson video of someone talking as a sitcom or something, a little portion, and the woman going on, and there are like 7 trombone players in the New York Philharmonic, and this one guy playing second trombone has probably spent his entire life learning how to play the trombone, and who even knows his name? And of course the guy next to him says, Dave Finlayson. And they're like, what? And she's Dave Finlayson. And they said, and she says, how do you even know this? Well, trombone players are nerds. We know all of this, and we're really into this, but most people are not. We're actually making good music. And yes, they may like what you're doing technically, but if you go to a real person, then they're going to be like, what are you trying to say? What's the point? Always try to say something. Great job. Yeah. Who's next? Who wants to be tortured? Come on. So I think summing up. Any other questions so far? Good. That's the way I like it.
My name is Mike Seringer, and I'm an industrial rubber salesman. When I was at the University of Cincinnati, I was a business major, and I played in the jazz band under Frank Brown. And when I lived in Houston, I took private lessons from Mike Haskell, who was the principal substitute for the Houston Symphony. And I had a long hiatus from a grandfather, and I picked the trombone back up about 15 years ago, playing a lot of local groups, classical tech and orchestra.
And then tell them what you're doing with this piece and why.
This is Rimsky-Korsakov's Concerto for Trombone, and what I'd like to know is why you wrote it. Sometimes music is written because somebody's really mad, sometimes they're in love, and I'd like to know what I'm supposed to be thinking about, feeling, when I play this piece.
That's a good question. I mean, unless you interview Rimsky-Korsakov, which is, of course, he's long dead, or maybe the Ouija board up. Let's say perhaps we can do that. But we don't always know the intent. How I figure out intent, again, I play a lot of contemporary music. Sometimes, most of my music that I play does not have a recording to it. So, I mean, reference recordings are great, and I do use lots of references when I'm playing. Piece that's commonly played, I don't know the piece. Rondell, for instance. Then I will listen to many recordings, even to this day. I listen to lots, just to make sure I know the accompaniment, whatever, this, that, whatever. But when you play contemporary music, I played a piece by Johannes Staud, which is a funny story in its own right, if I have a chance, at the Kennedy Center a couple years ago. Crazy piece, it was deemed unplayable. I had 3 weeks to prepare it, and I played it for Staud. And it was pretty close to unplayable, but I got it done. I didn't have any reference recording for that. So I listened to everything that Staud wrote, everything I could possibly find that Staud wrote. I researched who Staud was and understood who he studied with, or with whom he studied, I guess would be the proper way of saying it. And I researched and I listened to those recordings. Another thing happened with Roger Reynolds. I played behind the Unreason Mask, a 4-track tape, percussion and trombone. There was one recording of Stu Dempster, one of my heroes, of playing it, but there was only one recording. I like to have 4 or 5 different reference recordings. One recording is not good enough for me. So I listened to everything that, not everything, as much as I possibly could of Roger Reynolds, which is a lot of weird music. And then I also listened to who his teachers were. And I went back a couple of generations of who that teacher's teacher was. Because you're going to get a lot of information, a lot of DNA information from those teachers. Does that make sense? So if you don't know the inspiration of why they wrote it, at least you can understand where they're coming from, right? You can understand the Russian tradition. You can understand the rest of the music, solo music and orchestral music that we first talked about. You can understand that he was in the military. He wrote a lot of stuff in the military back, right?
Yes.
Who knows what inspiration he had? Maybe he just wanted to write a beautiful piece of music. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So sometimes if you don't know the story, you make up the story. A lot of times my story has to do with a dog named Scruffy. I've never had a dog named Scruffy. We can change the buttons if we wish. And a dog named Scruffy, and you know, a lot of times it's the same story over and over again. You watch a movie, you know the story. It's you know, you fall in love, you lose your love, and then you come back and everything's good again. That's generally where music is. So you have a dog, you play with your dog, you love your dog, but it's a beautiful dog, you're playing with it, and all of a sudden it gets hit by a car. It dies, life is horrible, you are running through a field, and the memories of this dog are beautiful, you have these great thoughts, and then you understand the tragedy of the whole thing. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I lost my dog, Scruffy, this is horrible. You go through this big mourning period, and then you realize, life is still good. I still have more things in life to look forward to, and then we go on. So you have to make up your own story. Sometimes I have students write words, text to the music, so they can understand it in a more verbal way. Some people are much more verbal than others. And sometimes I just say, just play it or sing it. I sit down with the piano and play through it, and see how it feels on my great pianist. I play a little bit of jazz, but I play through it on piano to see how it feels on piano, see how I can sing it on piano. Sometimes I sing it, you know, vocally. I have horrible voices, you heard me sing, but I sing through it as well. And then I play on trombone. My last attempt is usually on trombone, if you can believe it. Trombone is just a tool for me to play, and we're so wrapped up with this technical slush fund that we don't have a good idea of music. So
I've listened to about 12 different versions on YouTube. I found one that I like, and I believe it came from an LP back in the 60s, but it's the version that I prefer.
great. So let's hear it. What movie are you playing?
This is the third, the Alberto.
Great.
Play a few notes first.
Sure. Good. Stop there. So what do you think shortly? How do your expectations of how or what?
No, I've been practicing for a couple of weeks. I just got the okay last week to play this fall for Disney Corsica concert.
Great. So you're playing the Hula Ensemble, right? Or a band?
Yes, quintet.
No, but you will be playing this with a band.
With an orchestra.
Yeah. So, beautiful job. I mean, really nice sound, really nice compact sound. A lot of the notes are coming out clearly. And vibrato is unique but very nice. And I'm not a big fan of one particular type of vibrato, but I really like it. And it's not, I don't even know if I can do that, but it's really nice. The thing that I would say is, what's the dynamic?
It's F.
Yeah, quartet, right? And what are you playing in front of when you're playing it? Playing in front of the wind ensemble and your orchestra, right? It's all players, right? You're the soloist, right? You're playing concerts, you know? Right? What do you think? Yeah? You have to project. It's not only about air, not only about playing louder, it's about projection. So I often think about aiming for a place in the room. You might be your friend back there, you might want to aim right for his head. Or the back of the room. I think about aiming for a particular place. So I want you to play a low B flat for me. And I want you to aim for a clear area. That's a great sound. That's a great mezzo forte. I want you to play a nice forte. That's really you should always have large dynamic ranges. So that's the second movement. Third movement, the first movement, is about, I'm a trombone player, this is what I do, right? I'm not saying you can't always do that, but that's what it is. That's the inspiration. There were very few soloists at this time who could play beautiful pianissimo stuff all the time, just gorgeous, gorgeous lyrical stuff. I mean, there were trombone players. You listen to any of his music, orchestral music, and hear how he treats trombone, or handles trombone, then you will understand his thought. Okay? So you have to play a little bigger. So, but when you're breathing, you're getting caught up here. So you're going a lot, so you're closing out the throat. I want you, so if you're thinking about breathing into your core, your body expands, your lungs are in the center of your body, and your whole entire body has to expand when you breathe. It doesn't have to be word. I'm a big fan. There are two types of breathing. I was talking to Larry Zalkin dinner last night, or drinks last night. He's more of the Arnold Jacobs school, which is just lots of air, right? And I'm more of a conversational breath guy. So you might want to just think about just a nice conversational breath and playing that B flat, and then getting rid of it once you're relaxing. Try projecting that B flat. That's the difference, right? You hear a difference? That's a trombone. Sorry, I mean, you're a trombone player for sure. But that's the louder aspect of playing trombone. Good. So where are we with this? Play that middle B flat too. Just the middle B flat. Middle B flat. I still have the first note, the first B flat you play. Just play the B flat. Good. That's the note that you're going to reach to. Right? That dynamic. On the forte, once you project to the back of the hall, all your sound is coming is right here when you're playing your first blade. I want your sound to be out there. You have to project.
Just a B flat? Or?
No. Stop, clear F, please. Yeah, just air, project. That's an F. That's great. Now, that same intent. Good. Now, that takes a lot of energy and time and everything else, right? I mean, it takes a lot of effort to play trombone, physically. That sounded great. That's not a whole lot, right? But then you start to get a little tired or a little fatigued or whatever, mentally or physically, as you went on. And you're not used to using these muscles in that way. You're used to playing very compact. And for a quintet, you do play very compact. You play very efficiently sometimes. You have to. You have to play very efficiently all the time. When you're playing orchestrally, when you're trying to project, when you're playing a solo, it's a whole different ballgame. You have to wear 5 or 6 different hats when you're playing. When I'm playing jazz, I might play really soft. I might have to play the microphone. When you're playing quintet, it's going to blend with everyone else. When you're playing orchestrally, it has to be out there all the time, unless it doesn't. It's soft and soloistic. This, it's a solo. That's all you do. Get it out there, be proud of who you are, and be proud of your sound. Do it again. Good. Play that last half, please. Forte, please.
Last step?
Yeah. Yeah, that's where you go. That's a very good sound. It sounds great. Night and day difference. Make sure your E flat is flat third, not in third, right? It has to be slightly lower. And your G is slightly out of tune. Play our high G for me. There you go. Project this. It's a little too high on your side. Good. That's much closer. G's are sharp second. We all know this, right? But a lot of times it's so beaten into us by our teachers that G is sharp second that we tend to play G and really sharp second, and sometimes too sharp, right? What happens, especially when you're playing a high register, and you all know this, but when you're playing a high register, a high G, and you're playing a little too sharp, you try to lift it down because your ears are good, you're trying to figure things out, and it starts to crack. Or if you're playing it low and you're trying to lift it up, it starts to crack. Our ears are much better than we think they are, and our lips are much more capable of affecting this. But we play the perfect instrument, God's instrument, the voice of God, right? And I'm all trombone player, so I can say this. And so we have great intonation. We have to make sure you use our slides to do it. We can't lift things up or down. Once we start lifting things up or down, we run into a whole bunch of trouble. We get fatigued, we don't project as well, we have a nice core sound, and then we also start cracking notes. That's why the biggest reason why I crack notes is my slide is not very good. Good. One more time. Have you worked on the beginning one?
Yes.
Just hear the opening. Good. Just do the first arpeggio for me. At a forte dynamic. Good. So let's start with what we can do really well. Play that little B flat. Forte. Beautiful sound that you have. You own a beautiful sound. Sound like that all the time. Don't cut yourself short. You always sell yourself short, it seems. Like you're saying, I'm really a rubber salesman. I don't really want, right? Is that true?
A little bit.
Okay,
And,
project. You are a beautiful sound. You have a beautiful sound. You have a great sense of music. Make everyone hear it. You're allowed to. You're qualified to do it. Don't apologize. Play that A for me. Good. Sustain it and make it sound beautiful. Yeah. Everything forte.
Okay.
Everything fortissimo. Good. That's what you're aiming for. That's the sound you're aiming for. Practice this. You have to spend a lot of time. I play at a lot of dynamics. I play it fortissimo or really much louder dynamics so it sounds first. And then I play extremely soft. And then once I get those extremes so they sound pretty good, I stretch the extremes even more. So I would practice or slower to make sure everything's pure and clean and everything else, but really loud. When you play and when you're playing it in the solo, you drop the dynamic. Practice dropping the dynamic. You're gonna play forte or fortissimo with a big, mature sound, but it's gonna feel like you're playing. That's your goal.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Back here. At the beginning, it's not written in, but the original one, especially
Sure.
the trill.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Sounds great, and you have a great trill. So just keep the air moving from beginning to end. I think it's great. Yeah, it's not written, but this music is a lot of people do it that way. And again, who are you trying to prove it to, right? Yeah, who cares, right? You're playing music, right? If you're playing for audition, don't do the trill. Nah, it's not written in the music, just don't do it. You're not auditioning, you're playing. You're playing music, you're playing for people, you're playing because you love it and because they love you, right? So who cares? But play like you own it. Play like you own the instrument. Play like you're qualified to do so, because you are. You agree?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
All right, who's next? Just getting started. This is great. Generally a really shy and reserved person. There's stairs here for a reason. That's right. How you doing today? Good. Do you want to introduce yourself, what you do, who you are, where you're from?
Sure. My name's Austin Motley. I'm from Truman State University, which is in Missouri. I'm sure a lot of you have never heard of it. Small liberal arts school, but I'll be a senior next year, and yeah.
Just a word about that, it's, don't apologize, and you weren't really, don't apologize for where you go to school. Every school has its merits. I know some great students who go to some really, went to some really small, but like schools that I've never heard of, and they're amazing. There's some, like, Gene Corney, you went to Redlands, right? It's not, I think, didn't he? Redlands, yeah. It's not really a great music school, or was it? Maybe it was. I don't know. It's not certainly not IU or Juilliard, right? Where you expect everyone else to go. Don't apologize. You can make great music wherever you are. And John Cipher, who goes to, who's the principal trombone player at Colorado Symphony, amazing player. Also won LA. Didn't get the long-term thing, but he had a week or month-long whatever position. They loved him right? He just didn't have a lot of experience, and he wasn't glitzy enough, I think, for LA, is what it really came down to. He went to James Madison University. It's maybe you know the name of the school, but you don't say, I want to be a professional musician, I want to play in LA, I'm going to go to James Madison. You don't do that, right? You say, I'm going to go to Juilliard, or I'm going to go to IU, or I'm going to go wherever, but you don't say that. The school doesn't matter. What your intent in music is and what you play is. Don't apologize for it. Okay? I'm not saying. Go ahead. So you're playing.
Today I'm playing the third and fourth movements of The Conditions of a Solitary Bird by Mendez.
And I'll just mention a couple of things here and there, and then we'll kind of first movement, or the first one you played is third movement, is that right?
Yeah.
It was really nice. Double timing sounds great. Technique is really nice. I I would suggest a little more energy into down, aiming, right? And I think that will help. And then put dynamics. You play kind of monodynamically. Yes, you play a little louder. Yes, you play a little softer. And yes, what mezzo piano is the softest dynamic. Okay, pianist, yeah. And so you got down kind of soft for that. But the range of dynamics was minimal. You played a piano, a mezzo, and then forte, those two ranges, right? You have to expand it a lot more. So your fortes, especially where the apex of the piece seems to be, or the highest point of the phrase of the piece, you play maybe a good forte. It really requires a lot more energy than that. And it's not about sound, it's not about decibel levels, it's about energy. And energy was kind of lacking sometimes. And you're allowing the energy of the piece to speak for itself. And sometimes you just can't do that. Try to get from the beginning of the word. It's always too high in your slide. It's in the center and it kind of cracks. Do this again. Be prepared to play that D. You're not. It came up, and then you really got into it, right? Yeah, I get into it the first one. Yeah. That sounds better. You really committed to playing an E and two, and the first one was beautiful, much better. Now, the meter. I mean, you're playing the notes. You're playing in time. Time's great. A lot of really great playing. But all right, line and dance, right? Birds. These are about birds, right? Flying around. Birds just don't go flap their wings like really mechanically. I think gorgeous to watch, especially with hummingbirds, whatever. I don't know if it's birds, but you know, this movement. This is
A solitary one, all by itself, I guess.
They're beautiful to watch. Dancing. Not, it's less fun. Look, they get some good dancing. Yeah. Whole lot more energy in your sound, and your playing, and your phrasing, and everything else. But why not? You know, yes, it's consistent. It keeps on moving and everything else. This is a start of a new gesture, right? You go and and you kind of just glossing over the fact that he puts an accent on that eighth note. It's the highest note that you've played so far, and it's a start of a new phrase. I mean, this could be a rest for all we know.
Yep.
Right? So so you're stopping, you're kind of resting for a second, and then you're going off to catch another mouse or whatever you're doing. Right? But again, worm play that stuff. Commit to playing the perfect D the first time. That sounds great. Now these, dum bum bum. Where is that? Right. Yeah. So anytime you have more than one note in a row, and there are very few times when this does not happen, you have to make a difference. Dum bum bum. Really aim for it, right? No one wants to hear dum bum bum. Right? Yeah. So really intensify this when you get there, and then build that in, and then you come back. Okay. Good. So that's much more compelling performance, isn't it?
Yeah.
How does it feel to you then?
That feels a lot better.
You need to do more. Dun, bum, bum. All right? Dynamics have to be a lot more extreme than you're making it. You want to. This list. Dun, bum, da, 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 da. You really have to milk it, right?
Yeah.
I'm completely, because it should kind of float like a bird. I see it gliding, but there's a little bit of juice in it,
Yeah.
right? crescendo in it too, right? You just have to milk everything in this, everything that you have. Now, let's go, you understand what I'm saying with this, and that's all fine. Dynamics, this, blah, 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 blah. This, when you get to, the multiphonics are really pretty good. They're a little more complex multiphonics to do, right? Until you get to some major sonorities. So they're nice, and it takes time, and I think you really did a really nice job. When you do quarter tone stuff, right? You have to make them sound like they're real notes. You're pretending like I'm playing a flat E flat, on a flat E flat, E flat, a sharp E flat. No, it's a quarter step. And so at NEC, I was blessed enough to take a quarter tone class on just how to play quarter. It's kind of fun. We have to make them sound like it's an actual real note. But it comes with a belief system that you believe in. Right? Which a lot of us don't. But you know, I've recorded a couple of things by Xenakis for brass quintet and piano and a couple other things. And you have to play these and you have to sell it. And you're not selling it. Okay? Or you're not selling the quarter tone. I'm not buying it, is what I'm saying. Make every note sound centered. Good. That sounds great. Physically, I understand what you're doing. Musically, you make it the most beautiful phrase that you've ever played. I know it's not. It's one note essentially that you're playing out of tune, right? Yeah. That's what your thought process is. Change the thought process. This is a really gorgeous melody that I may not understand. Did you feel any different?
A little bit. It's kind of tricky since I have to drop back down every time. But
So you might want to create text, or it could just be a minimalist thing where it just needs to sound monotonous. But you have to decide. Again, the biggest flaw or sin in playing is not making a decision. You have to decide, do I want it to sound really mechanical? Do I want it to sound romantically beautiful? Do I want it to sound like a song? Do I, you know? And you are playing notes. And in contemporary music, it's really easy to try to play what's on the page, and we get so wrapped up in that. But what this really is, what I love about contemporary music, really extreme avant-garde music, or even just playing contemporary music and early music and jazz, is they're all related. They're all the same. We're after the same thing. What are we after? We're after playing great music and interpreting something, saying a story, saying something to the audience or to whomever. You have to tell a story with every single one you play, and that's the difficulty in contemporary music, not anything else. Okay? So this quick story about, because it's all about me after all, right? This quick story about the Stroud at the Kennedy Center. Crazy piece. I was playing trombone. I had to play bass drum, kick drum. And it's like, yeah, I had a hat and I had a plunger and all this garbage everywhere. It was crazy. Unplayable piece. I played it, and this 10-year-old boy comes up to me after the concert in the hallway and says, that was really lovely. I love the way you played. I love the piece, whatever. He says, I'm a trombone player too, and then when I get older, I want to play that piece. This is the most crazy avant-garde piece I've ever played. I didn't expect anyone would care. No one would care, never mind a kid, right? That's what your job is. You teach a 7th grader that they love this music, they love trombone, and that you're the musician you sell it to them. Make sense? This is not avant-garde music, this is music. This is music, and you sell it as music. Right? Preaching, that sounds like preaching. You sound great. Really phenomenal. Thank you. Any questions about it?
I think I know what to do. So.
Sound beautiful. Great. And I'm so happy that I'm so happy that you're playing this is complex music. Musically speaking, physically, technically speaking, and also, you know, we need to embrace contemporary music, whether we like it or not. The reason why you don't like contemporary music, if you don't, is because you don't play it enough. You don't listen to it. You don't experience it. That's the only reason why you don't like it. You might not like everything. And the problem is, we, lecture series number 25 for Scott Bean. Problem is that people say, well, yeah, you just don't like it because it's a piece of music. No, you're allowed to hate some contemporary music, because some contemporary music is garbage, right? But our past, all the music that was garbage was weeded out. And I shouldn't say garbage, because composers get all wild up. Oh, you can call, yeah, I can call your piece a piece of garbage sometimes. Sometimes music is just not good. Sometimes playing is just not good. I can say you don't sound good today, or you do sound good. It can be black and white occasionally, right? So we know that Beethoven, Opus 18's string quartets are really beautiful pieces. But I don't like Spohr because I think he's kind of crappy. I just don't like his music. He's not as good as Beethoven. Why would I spend all my time listening to Spohr when I can listen to Beethoven? Does that make sense? Why would I play really bad contemporary music? Problem is, you have to think about it, you have to play through it, you have to understand it to decide whether you want to play it or not. And that takes time. All right? All right, Grandal, one of my favorite pieces, actually.
Yes. Hi, my name is Brent Mead. I just finished my senior year at the University of Northern Ireland. I'll be playing the first movement, probably a little bit of the Grandal.
We don't know what we like until we hear it, so why don't you try something different. Now, if you don't like what it sounds like, or if the teacher says, hey, you might want to change that, then you might want to change it.
Yeah.
I really like your vibrato. It's really sensitive, really tunes the music. The legato is really nice. It works well. Slide is clean, slide is fast. Seems a little muscular sometimes when you play. The left side is a little tight, it seems. But I have to work a little bit more to see what's going on. That doesn't get in the way, though. Just you sound really good. My biggest issue is it sounds good. Right?
All right, cool. Yeah.
You're not trying to sing it, you're trying to win an audition.
Okay.
It's not about life is not about winning an audition. John Swallow was one of the teachers, and as far as considering one of the best teachers who taught trombone, as far as making said some of the best musicians in the world never won an audition. This is true, right? As I said earlier, auditions are considered to be even more difficult to win than winning to being a player on a professional sports team. So you figure what on the Chicago Bulls, whatever. Yeah, everyone says that's the most difficult thing. Oh, I made major leagues. Well, no, winning an average orchestra job is. So what are we playing for? Why do we even bother? You know, we can't win them. We can. I'm not saying. I'm not being negative. You're playing for the beauty of the music. Express something. I know it's not a forte, but if you're playing in front of the orchestra, you want that energy. You want them to do I don't care what that energy. Tell me.
Thank you.
2, 3. You know, my triple high B flat is really bad. Well, do you play it often? No, I play it once or twice, get really tired and it kind of hurts, you know? That's why we can't do things, because we don't practice them. You're practicing playing bum bum with a beautiful sound, and that doesn't work.
All right, cool.
Play your A flat. And you're going to sound bad because you're not used to doing it.
Okay,
So
yes.
accept sounding bad. Try it again. Good. For the first one. Bum bum. Good. So this is something you need to work on. Bigger dynamic, cleaner articulations, and a bigger dynamic, right? It's not always about playing loud, but this is fortissimo, 2 F's, right? Think about Rondal. Everything that he wanted is exactly in the part. If you follow everything in the part, you will play it beautifully, right? So play everything in the part.
Okay.
Ba-dum bum bum. Ba-dum. I always think of this as kind of a 4-star, right? Like thunder. Ba-dum bum bum. I had this first one. Good. It's a pretty low-key horse. There's staccato, right? And then you're playing with a great orchestral player, which I'm in conflict a lot of times. I like to play with a great orchestral player, which is non-articulation, right? But that also goes for the second note. Ba-da, you're like ba-da-bum-bum. That's nice. It's not all to it, right? It's ba-da-bum-bum. There's a break there, right? Put a break there. And then play the staccato. You don't have to play them super short. You just have to have energy. I want a little more break in the E, please. Now, ba-dum-bum-bum. Think about almost as 2 phrases. Not quite, but they're almost 2 phrases. Okay. Good. And then ba-dum-bum-bum. Break. Because you're starting your horse right now. Okay. Have more energy in your
The bottom one?
and more energy in the E. Ba-dum-bum. No. There you go. I'm sorry. That That sounded great. That was a musical gesture. That was a thought. That was an idea. That's what it sounded. You have to pass the test. Everything that you do, at least I try to. Why? If so, for writing, writing papers and stuff, your thesis has to pass. Why do you care? Why does anyone care about this, right? Why does anyone care if you're playing this piece? Thousands of people have played this piece. Hundreds of thousands probably. Why do you care that you're playing? I don't. Make me care.
Okay.
One more time. You say, make me care. Make them care. Make them say, geez, that's the best that I've ever heard. That's the best rondel. I need to interpret it that way.
Okay.
It's your job. Also have a tendency to rush that, right? So you're slowing this down. Okay, through this. If you're going to keep this so solid and everything else that you're doing, then that just sounds like you're rushing. Okay, one more time. Energy, please. Project. Good. A lot of it sounds so beautiful. Your technical playing is really great. Spot on. Beautiful sound, mature, everything else. You just have to get them play. That sounds really beautiful. You have to take an extra breath somewhere that you weren't used to, right? You're using tons more air, and tons more thought, and tons more energy. It requires a lot of air. But it also requires you to practice it. Well, a lot of times when we practice them as well, we're playing great notes. We're playing really good notes. I really need to practice these notes because notes are really important. And then I can apply music to it. Well, no. you have notes and music, and they're both practiced at the same time, because when you're practicing music secondarily, then you're practicing how to do it the second and third time, because that's at the beginning, right? Practice notes the first time cleanly, perfectly, all the time, and you practice music cleanly, perfectly, every time. Interpretation may change, may adjust. That's not the question. Intent is so important, making sure your intent of playing great all the time. Have you grown up? I sound awesome. It's not. It's going to be 75% of the time. You're fine with that, but your intent is always, I am going to sound amazing. I have something to say. I am important. All right? Awesome job. Good job. Any questions? Thank you all for listening and playing. I really appreciate it. It takes a lot to get up here and play for people. And if you haven't played for anyone, then just know that these people are going through a lot. It's so easy for me to judge you when I look at my cat. Cat E sounds horribly on it too. But yeah, when you're up here, you're like, yeah, I'm trying my best, man. But don't be afraid. Don't be upset. Don't think that you have nothing to give. We're so wrapped up in this trombone world where we have there's a couple different types of sound and types of playing. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has a different voice. And it's not until a person hears that voice until they decide they like it. Right? Does that make any sense? So if people play with a certain sound and certain articulation and certain this or whatever, and that's the way it should be because that's the sound I like. Well, then someone else comes along and says, so this happened with me with John Cypher, the same guy that plays principal in Colorado. And he plays a con, 88 H. All things. Who plays a con? And I play a Shires, and he used to play Shires. All his auditions were won on a con. Then he switched to a Shires, and then he wasn't winning any auditions, and he switched to con. It's not because of the Shires. I never thought of a con as being a specific type of instrument. When he starts playing it, the amount of colors and lushness in his sound, it's different than mine. But I'm like, and I never thought that I would want that in my sound. I never thought I want all those beautiful colors. And it's kind of a wispy sound. Never thought that until I heard him play. I'm like, yeah, I kind of want that in my sound now. I want to figure out how to do that. Make sense? And not until I heard him play did I want that. Because I never heard that before. I never heard someone who was qualified enough to do that. Does that make sense? And it's not our general sound that everyone loves. But he's making great music when he does it. I make great music hopefully when I do it. And people, it's not the same as anyone else. You are different voices, different people. When you're playing orchestra, you have to have the same sound, same articulation. When you're playing music, which is what we're here for, then you play the way you want to play musically, trying to express something, trying to sell something on what your interpretation of music is, and make them believe that that what you're doing is important, and feel that you can change someone's life. You can change someone's life. You can change your physical makeup. You can change how people walk around every day by your playing. If you don't believe that, like I said the first day, if you don't believe that you can change someone's life by playing a single note of trombone, then you should please get out of the business because we don't need you. You don't need to be in it. You need to be in a field where you can change lives. You can. Every piece of music will change someone's life. It's up to them to listen. You also have to draw them in. And that's part of the problem that's wrong with classical music today, is that people are playing notes. They're not playing music. They're not playing to change lives. They're playing to get a job, to win money, to whatever. Money will always come if you do something you love. And if you're playing for love. It won't come if you're playing for an audition. Got it? Sorry. Lecture series number 582. It's got to be. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.